hello, Nothing But Respect Army. I keep putting this toward the end of the episode or forgetting to do it, so I'm doing it right now at the start of the episode before my epic intro, which you'll hear momentarily. Please rate and review Nothing But Respect on the various podcast platform apps. It helps us kind of grow more like organically and get in front of real humans and not sort of like through some recommendation algorithm, which we are going for as a little, carrot if doing the right thing, doing your part in the culture war isn't enough. We are going to start, if you do a review and ask us a question or give us a take or kind of any sort of spice, as long as it's a 5-star rating, we will read it on air and talk about it and give you a shout out. So please do that. Send it to your friends if you're digging the pod. Post us on NBA Reddit, all those sort of like real human stuff, because we like doing the pod and we want more people to listen.
Kind of like I think people like my possession. I'm kind of a unique kind of character.
And I love to
You just see how games of possession are more intense, how they mean more. I think the U.S. is going to obviously win.
I can relate to kids going straight to the leave when they recognize that you've got what it takes to succeed, and that's around the time that your idols become your rivals. You got to make friends with Tiger, but got to VJ him for your survival. Damn, I swear golf and basketball and music are so synonymous, because we want to be them and they want to be us. That's right, everybody. We are joined on today's episode of Nothing But Respect by the only person to like basketball and golf in equal parts, but I guess besides Charles Barkley, Drew Millard. Is it Millard or Millard?
It's Millard.
Beautiful.
You can say whatever. I don't really care.
And of course, Patrick Redford, a writer at Defector. How are you guys?
I've been saying Millard in my head since for like 13 years that I've been reading you. This is sort of an on-air revelation.
I mean, Millard Fillmore just like fucked it up for me. Because he's the main one. Did you guys know his last words were just "the nourishment is palatable"?
Well, the second most famous Millard is Drew Millard, who is a author, a fellow podcaster, of which we will talk about later, a music writer, and absolute certified veteran of the blog minds. We're going to. Speaking of the blog minds, Patrick had a great piece about Court of Gold, which we will be talking about. But I did want to start with a piece from the blog minds that I didn't quite get a chance to read, but I saw a graphic for it that was very enticing. Drew, did you predict the Philadelphia 76ers like very specific demise at the start of the season?
I did as a joke. I mean, I live in Philadelphia now, and I'm from North Carolina. And so, the Hornet, I didn't have a ton of loyalty to the Hornets because of, just something about like Miles Bridges,
Sure.
like kind of negates any sort of like pluck that LaMelo anchored team could inherently have for me. So I like switched loyalties pretty quickly and then discovered that was like a horrible idea. Because the Sixers are the most analytics brained, but like in a dumb guy way team that you can imagine, which is weird because Daryl Morey he's supposed to be the genius. He's got the Sloan Analytics conference. And I just remember once hearing him be like, oh yeah, defensive rebounding doesn't really matter very much statistically. And then
I love that type of shit.
Yeah, and then you watch him play the Celtics, and the Celtics get to try like 3 threes each possession because the analytics told them to let them do that. But yeah, as part of this piece, I was just like reflecting on the fact that Embiid came into the season hurt, and the team was just like lying about when and if he would play. And then Paul George had immediately gotten a bone bruise in his knee. And also, this was around the time that the team was like bullying the city of Philadelphia to try to get a new stadium in Chinatown, which no one wanted. And they ended up just sort of like playing the city against, I don't know, Comcast or something, and getting a new stadium in South Philadelphia, which then caused our mayor, Sherelle Parker, a certified wannabe Eric Adams, to claim that this was the city's plan the entire time. Anyways, I just was like, the analytics say there's like a 3% chance they're going to win a championship. And then it's probably mostly going to be that it's going to be a fucking disaster. Anyways, that was long-winded. I'm sorry.
But you were right, is the point.
Yeah.
To me, the thing about the Morey teams that I've always kind of loved as like a lifelong hater, ever since I saw Simmons refer to him as Dork Elvis like 20 years ago, was that like his teams are hyper like built towards maximizing math and optimizing analytics to this like hyper driven degree, except the fatal flaw is always like some biblical shit, like your best players hate each other, or everyone on your team is 35 and they have like 3 functioning knee tendons between them. It's always just this very basic human shit. So he overlooks these like very simple, obvious team building things in service of like what the spreadsheet says. And I feel like your piece sort of gets at that.
On the other hand, I'm going to defend Daryl Morey.
See, this is the specific sick and twisted degree type of brain damage that 76ers fans have, is like only like both the Joel Embiid is the greatest player of all time and Joel Embiid deserves to be like shot are like constantly at war in a kind of schizophrenic way. But anyway, yeah, defend Daryl Morey.
Oh, I wasn't actually. I was going to make a joke. But Patrick, are you familiar with min-maxing, dude?
Just as a concept?
Yeah, we were min-maxing with the roster.
Dude,
this was either going to happen or we were going to win it all.
Yeah, I like that. That's sort of, that's kind of the Sam Hinkie approach in micro, where he's basically saying like, unless you win a championship, everything is bullshit, and so we're going to tank for 4 years. It is funny that he was fired because like basically he's become a martyr for like Philly Sixers fans. Like he was fired before the success or failure of the process could fully be litigated, so that anything that happened after that was like you're betraying the original vision of Sam Hinkie. And I saw him, speaking of Peter Thiel, speak at the Stanford's like West Coast answer to Sloan, like their sports analytics conference. This was like a year after he was fired. He was the keynote speaker, and all of his insights were like, why do we drive on the parkway and park on the driveway? That's why I drafted Markelle Fultz.
I mean, honestly, I would much prefer it if the Sixers just did it the way the Kings did it. I love that you guys traded De'Aaron Fox and then immediately got Zach. Why am I calling him Zach Lowe? Goddamn.
Yeah, we got Zach Lowe.
Dude, that would be sick.
The pick and roll's it's a little tough that we got a 45-year-old man who lives in Connecticut running it, but like, you can't argue that the podcasts are really fire coming out of the team right now.
Mm-hmm. He interviewed the Beam. He interviewed Mindy Kaling in the Beam, like an episode of Stunt Podcasting.
And
we need to get too derailed, but like the ways that the Kings are like pretty competent now are like very annoying to me. They're sort of making me question a lot of my basketball priors, which is that they're like succeeding to like a higher degree than they did when Fox and Sabonis were both running shit, because they've got like, not in spite of them getting stupider, but like because they've gotten stupider. Like the offense is just kind of like Levine and DeRozan dribbling for 17 seconds, then taking a contested shot. And like those guys are incredible at that. The problem is they basically don't get anything better. And then the upside is they don't get anything worse. So the offense is just always at this like very mid level forever. And the fact that it's kind of working makes me sort of just like, man, I've spent so much time and energy like espousing this version of kind of like thunder-driven hyperball defense athleticism, when really at the end of the day, the game kind of is just about a bucket.
They're mid-maxing.
Yeah. They're midi maxing.
Yeah.
I mean, so the Sixers tickets have been super cheap this year for obvious reasons. And so Emily, my common law wife, and I have been going to a lot of games. And I think I've realized through this, like, the only thing I really want out of the team that I root for is if I go to or watch a game, them being competitive and it being fun to watch. Like, I don't really care if they win a championship.
I had that thought, and then we'll pivot to kind of the Court of Gold stuff. But I had this thought about I'm coming from a very different perspective, where I was daydreaming about a possible scenario where the Warriors are bad in a couple years, and I was like, I wonder, like, why did I care so much about the Warriors even when we suck? And the answer is what you just said, Drew. Is like, every game does have a tremendous amount of drama in it if the team is playing hard and if the other team is playing hard. And, like, you just get sucked into that. Like, yes, it's easy to, when you're not watching the game, think that game 37 is just the random 37th game. But when you're there, it's incredibly exciting. And there's no better example of how exciting an individual game is, a game that some of us have all collectively forgotten. Not Steph Curry and certainly not the French, but the various games that were played in the Olympics this year, covered by the Court of Gold documentary produced. We were talking about the CIA off mic, produced by Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Patrick, you wrote a piece about Court of Gold and kind of about the ways it succeeds, where Starting Five and some of these other docs haven't. Can you talk about the piece, and then let's talk about one of the things you talk about in it is this drive to survive phenomenon, and I want to also talk about that. But first, like, what was the genesis of the piece?
That's actually the place to start, because I've been ideating on this concept of, like, the limits of the Netflix propaganda documentary. Like Drive to Survive, Starting Five, Tennis has Breakpoint. And I think a lot of these, like this genre, sort of like the post-Hard Knocks genre, like, there's a lot to like about them, but ultimately I found myself sort of frustrated by the hard limits of the form, which is that basically these are explicit advertisements for the leagues, for the players or whatever. And the storytelling and narrative possibilities will always be limited by the degree to which they need to serve as advertising. So, like, I really liked watching Drive to Survive, but then I tried to watch an F1 race and it was the most boring shit I'd ever seen. And I tried to follow the season in real time, and it was like, there wasn't the juice. And I realized that what I liked wasn't like F1. What I liked was this, like, fictionalized, stylized version of F1. And so then Starting Five dropped, and I really saw that, like, really showed me, they, like, proved this thesis basically, because that was something where, like, I followed this at, like, a micro level, and that was just, like, this weird off-putting commercial. Like, did you guys watch that at all?
I did.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. Yeah, Harry, what did you think?
I totally agree with you, and just about the degree. I felt like the Starting Five was a particular failure in this genre, because even the counterparts of, like, quarterbacks and wide receivers I found to be a little bit more compelling. But the particular sort of, like, milquetoast players, but then also the commitment to basically, like, the most basic understanding of what a sports documentary going through the motions thing should be was what ended up, what Starting Five ended up being. Like, it was almost like, in the same way that Jason Tatum pretends to be a sports documentary, a member of a sports documentary in his real life, like, he just continued doing that performance there.
Yeah, and I think basically my issue with that was that it wasn't very interested in basketball. Like, it was a documentary about basketball players that expressed no interest, whereas you won't learn anything about, like, how teams or players actually function at, like, anything like a mechanical level, whereas in Court of Gold, you see Nikola Jokic being like, okay, LeBron's going to screen for Curry here, and then he'll curl, so make sure you, like, stay at home in the split cut. And, like, as a sicko, I love that shit. And I wonder what you guys took away from, like, its level of detail, which is the thing that impressed me the most.
I really enjoyed, I only watched about half the episodes, but I really enjoyed its treatment of Anthony Edwards,
Yeah.
where Ant, like, he is just the same. He is exactly the guy who would send those texts. You know what I mean? And like Steve Kerr trying to like take him aside and be like, you know, you're hot shit right now, but like if you want to be the hottest shit, you have to like watch LeBron and Steph and like check out their habits. Like they're always working really hard. And like Anthony Edwards is just like, yeah, okay, dad, shut up.
It was so cool.
Yeah. And then when he's talking to Embiid and Obama and is just like being a dick to Obama, like, all of the other players just treat him with like the utmost reverence.
Yeah, you look over and you see LeBron and KD kind of looking over with like wide eyes, like, oh no, Ant is talking to Obama. This is like, we got to not have this happen.
And he's not even drunk. He's drinking a Shirley Temple.
It was so charming. I also like Ant talking to the ping pong players and being like, I'll take you guys at ping pong. I'll fucking smoke you.
Yes.
He does seem, I mean, perhaps this is obvious, but he has like incredible comedic timing. Like he's clearly a deeply charismatic, hilarious guy. So I can see he has this funny sort of type of it factor leadership thing in the way that I think Shea does as well. That's on display. That's just like he came out of the womb cool. Like he has just been like magnanimous and charismatic forever. And you know, people follow that often. People like gravitate toward that, like as a leadership type of thing. So I see it being helpful. The thing that I was most impressed with around this was, and I also think you brought this up in the piece and was very well put, was the use of like the settings. I thought was really good. The shots of, in a way that maybe other documentaries do this, and like maybe some of this was just the unique decision to make a documentary about the Olympics. But already seeing an NBA player in like a fucked up locker room that I would have played at in high school was like artistic off rip. Didn't matter what they were saying. It was so interesting to see. And so seeing all the players like that was just really exciting, and did get me thinking, and I want to throw this back at you guys about how much of this success did just have to do with the unique circumstances of having all of this access of people who are sitting around doing nothing. Like, because the Olympics is, you had all these people just sitting around in this thing for 3 weeks doing the most important sports thing of their lives, which is just a very unique documentary setting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Like, everyone is just kind of, yeah, like they're just chilling around, and there isn't like this frenetic level of activity to be mediated by PR people, basically. Like, I think some of the actually weakest parts of the doc were like NBA players going to like other Olympic events. Like, there was the part where Shea watches the 100 and he's like, he looks so jealous. And he's like, those guys, their entire like 4 years comes down to less than 10 seconds. Like that level of pressure where most people would end the sentence with, sounds scary as fuck, where he's just like, I want to feel that. Like, he's almost like saying the tough thing about basketball is that it happens so much, and that you can like succeed or fuck up over 100 plays. That was really cool. But like the stuff about like, I think your point comes through most in like France specifically. Like they're like these cloistered aesthetics over in this like weird French like national team compound thing.
In the sports boarding school they all grew up in
and met their wives in, that are all also athletes.
Yeah, like Drew, I remember you talking about the scene of the French team chef.
Yes, and you write about that in your piece, and you kind of say like, or I guess you should say it.
Well, basically, you see, like, we were sort of talking about this off mic, but the way the teams treat food is very interesting, where it's like Team USA, Ant is like, oh boy, we just beat Serbia, time for an ice cream cone. And then you see the French chef just like sweating like he's about to be guillotined, being like, we need oat milk for the cappuccinos because Evan Fournier gets a little farty. You have to do 5% the salt on Nicolas Batum's meal that you do on Strezel's. And he's like, his eyes are all crazy. And then, as you pointed out, you see someone just dumping like canola oil all over some pasta.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite thing about the documentary is like how specifically with like Serbia and France and America, they each sort of enact their national stereotypes. Like you have Obama on camera in his own documentary being like American basketball hegemony shall not be questioned. Just as we invented the nuclear bomb, therefore we get to impose our will upon the world. We invented basketball, and I expect nothing but that. And then, like, the French guys, yeah, they have these like insane beliefs about food. Emily is, she is like half Swiss French, and she lived in France for a while. And she once told me she was at a dinner, and after the dinner, everyone was drinking coffee, and they were like, "Do you want some coffee?" And she was like, "No, I want an orange." And they all like looked aghast because they believed that if you ate an orange after dinner, it would keep you up at night, but coffee would put you to sleep.
That's so tight.
Yeah, and you just like see this play out with the like they must have like the best protein pancakes and everything must be from the small farm, and then like glug 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 like all the oil on their like fried onions or whatever. And then the Serbian team is just like a lot of it is them playing pub games together, which I assume they do just in Serbia hanging out. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the things you missed in the back half that I found very charming, like it sort of contrasts with the gold medal game, like high pressure shit, is like after Serbia wins, Jokic is just like on this quest to drink 1,000 beers in 24 hours. Like after USA wins, like you see Wemby like weeping, LeBron is celebrating, and Jokic is just running around being like, "Find Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr can get us beer. We need 6 more beers before we get up on there for the medal ceremony." And Wemby's just like so sad. He's thinking about like what fantasy novel character whose journey he will embody on his revenge quest. And like Jokic and Bogey are just like dancing and singing in Serbia, and like it's so funny.
No, my brother pointed out that he was like, they aren't smoking cigarettes in the locker, the Serbian team, but they honestly might as well be. Like
Yeah.
they are just doing like dumbbell curls like for no reason. It's really awesome. I wanted, if there is, so I want to focus in on one moment because I think it highlights this larger thing about what this is doing, because anecdotally, lots of why this is important is not just because it's some random documentary and we get like under the table cut out Obama funding for this podcast. It's that a lot of people have talked to me about this documentary. People are like, "Wow, the Court of Gold is really good. It's this really different thing." In the way that Starting Five, which had all the hype in the world as a basketball documentary, really was just kind of a flop in the NBA world. And the specific moment is the French against Canada. They're playing, and like it's this Evan Fournier. The lead up is the story around Evan Fournier speaking out about whether or not the team is playing too much defense versus offense, whatever. And then he hits a few big shots, and the French team ends up winning, beating Canada, and it's this emotional thing. And everybody's celebrating in the France, whatever. It struck me that what I remember, the only thing I remember about that game is that they benched Gobert, which is not mentioned at all in the documentary. And it's this funny thing about when you look at the macro, the story that we are told is that the French team came together and set aside their differences and played really hard for each other and beat this springy Canadian team. What a cold analytical look at what happened is they were playing 2 7.5-footers and they switched to playing 1 7.5-footer, and it completely changed their team. And I just had this funny thing of like both and neither of those things are true, and you can't. And the document, and it's this, the whole basketball PR world is like at war. Those two narratives are at war with each other all the time. And I just felt like that was an interesting example of that thing. It was a return to got that dog in you narrative supremacy.
And I mean, the whole like Nico Batum tragic hero arc, and also like sort of de facto link between Tony Parker and Wemby in terms of like the face of French basketball, I thought was really well done. And you highlighted that wonderfully in your piece, Patrick. And it also just made me realize how much more of a shit Batum gives about international basketball than NBA basketball. Like, I distinctly remember in the play-in tournament when he was on the Sixers, he just like took the game over. And after the game, they were like, Batum, why did you do that? And he's like, I just did not want to have to play another fucking play-in game. So I figured I would win. And like, but this, he keeps like talking about like people need to get off their cool and like, you know, play as one with chemistry, and then cut to, I'm gesturing to you, Patrick.
Oh, I mean, something I like about Batum is that when he's like having this very serious expression talking about how much the Olympics mean, the like first thing he starts with is like, we are all going to die someday and our careers will be dead soon, and this is our one chance to do something before we disappear into irrelevancy. And it's like, that's like what he starts with. And like that kind of leadership is so like, it's so magnetic. And like what I ultimately find so like incredible about the ending is that you see Batum just like rage against the dying of the light forever, and he's like, this is like this Manichaean struggle against good and evil, and we will like define our legacies in these 40 minutes. And then Steph makes those shots, and even after all that, Batum just kind of laughs. He's like, you know what, basketball is the best. Like, it's kind of this like this beautiful moment where the competition and the fighting and like the self-defining, like the big stakes just kind of melt away, and like just like the artistic possibility of basketball. And I found that to be extremely affecting. And kind of to Harry's point about the dog in you versus Spain pick and roll angle taking thing, like the way Steve Kerr talks about basketball is really great in this too, because he's clearly coaching as fuck. He's like doing scheme and stuff, but then the best parts are when like KD goes on a run and he's just like giggling in his chair and saying like, man, he's so fucking good. Or like when Steph makes all those shots and he's like, I love you. You're so good at basketball. Like that shit is great.
No, Kerr was a big winner for the doc.
Tell him the whole context of the situation though. You asked him what he think about this young man, and he said, I'm okay. I said, I'm the truth. He's tripping. That's what happened.
What's wrong with that?
Okay, we had a little technical difficulty, but which is okay because, you know, God closes doors and opens others. We just learned that Patrick is a guy who brings knives to parties.
That's
He's got
not
like a
true.
collection of like Buccaneer style knives that he whips out.
This is a mushroom knife. As you can see,
even
there's
to
a curved
know what
blade
that is
and a little brush on the end. So when I'm collecting various specimens, you know, I can harvest them and then clean them off for eating later.
Okay,
Which I guess doesn't make me sound less weird, but
I was about to. Mushroom knife sounds like a type of like you can do a mushroom wound.
I got this elf. I got all kinds of shit on my desk.
Drop the load out.
I mean, I'm glad you're an EDC guy. I'm also from Western North Carolina, and so like I know foragers.
Hell yeah.
So you know, I'm not scandalized.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm like, it's part of the California good vibes West Coast lifestyle, you know. Like you East Coast media elites, I guess Drew, you sort of understand, and I guess Harry, you also kind of understand, but the general you guys don't get it. You know, it's different over here.
Yes, I'm going to talk about the East Coast media elites at a certain point, but I want to finish and just, you know, sometimes I invoke the sort of podcasting as the end, player podcasting as the end of basketball media, in a kind of overdone, ironic way, but I do want to say that in this case, this documentary and the kind of like artfulness of which it approached the storytelling, and you know, I don't think any of us are saying it was perfect. Like there are plenty of seams around the like PR machine towards the Olympics and towards the Obamas and towards, American basketball and the NBA, blah, blah, blah. But
I agree. It could have had more Obama.
There was an artfulness and there was a thoughtfulness that I found myself thinking, like, because we all understand that we're getting sold shit all the time, right? With the player projects, we're getting sold shit. With this, we're getting sold shit. But there was at least an artfulness and an excitement in the players' decisions, or maybe lack of decisions, to surrender narrative control a little bit. And the way, and I know this a little bit because I am working in some of this, but also just because you can see it from the outside, is like the way that starting five works is they go to the agents and they're like, if you let us film you forever, you get narrative control to run your PR wing and do whatever the fuck you want with the story. You get final cut, you get blah, blah, blah. Like, of course, that's how it goes. I suspect it was a little bit different with this, where the Olympics is such a draw and there are so many storylines and so many whatever, and less high profile folks like everybody who's not an NBA, American-born NBA superstar, that they were able to massage certain narratives and kind of like allow the documentary to tell a story that wasn't so closely related to each individual's player PR apparatus. And that was just such a win. And I would hope that the industry sees that and is like, can we do a little bit more of that? Like, yes, Bam Adebayo didn't start and like didn't get a lot of tick, but the story about his growing up was deeply compelling and affecting. And like, you need both of those things. You need him not playing and looking embarrassing to make the narrative arc of that work. And just that leap of faith makes the storytelling so much better. That's my high horse. Does that seem right? Is there any possibility of that happening in the future of sports PR documentaries?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, because basically, like, the thing that makes this so special is that the participants don't really have anything to gain from it. And like, even thinking about the like NBA context versus international basketball context, like there is no sort of mediating corporate entity like the Boston Celtics between like player and viewer. And maybe it's just a simple matter of there being fewer PR people there. But what I kind of liked about it is that like there is this like 5-minute montage of just like the Olympics are in Paris, but it's so different than the rest of the doc. It almost seems like the director was like, okay, yeah, we'll do one talking head with Obama, one little segment about the Olympics, and then we're just fucking going to show LeBron getting dunked on by Gershon Yabusele from 6 different angles for 10 minutes. Yeah. It's so great.
I do wish, and maybe this happens in the episodes I didn't see, and if that's the case, then you should cut this and ban me from Nothing But Respect. But I do wish that South Sudan had been explored a lot more, because like, I do think that is the most unique and compelling story from the Olympics, besides the one Italian guy who didn't wear glasses when he shot his little gun. Mm-hmm. And I would have like really loved to see, that is like, not to detract from, like Kevin Durant or Bam Adebayo talking about their upbringings, but like that is like a different level of, struggle that these folks like, had to overcome. And also it just would have been fun to like watch them in the room when they find out that Bol can't play with them.
I don't remember that. Was that a thing?
Yeah, he bowed out of the Olympics either to, lock in for the NBA season, or maybe he was hurt. I'm not really sure.
It's a fine line these days.
Not if you podcast P.
Yeah.
He was ruled out for, quote, undisclosed personal reasons. I think that's so true, Drew. And also like more South Sudan stuff could have actually like made a much more compelling case for the Olympics as this like global festival of sport, because it's like, okay, you have people who like came here from, sort of like a Bam Adebayo, Kevin Durant, like harsh personal circumstances. And this is like another pinnacle for them to achieve. Then you also have players whose like neighboring nation is involved in this like horrible civil war, and they themselves, like their nation is the product of another one. And like, do you guys remember Japan versus France in men's basketball at these past Olympics? That was a great game.
Yes.
That
Japan
was the
almost
one
won.
refs cheated, right?
Yes, it was the one the refs cheated.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was great.
It was Yuki. Yuki had this crazy game. He was just going totally nuts. And then France won because of a phantom call on like a 4-point play.
Right.
And I remember like, I was really looking forward to seeing that game in this documentary, because to me that like showed the fractures of France. And it's like, they had that Germany loss, and then that like, they basically almost didn't make it to the knockout rounds because of this like crazy, this is a sports conspiracy I 100% believe.
Sure.
And like that would have been sort of detrimental to the narrative, but I was excited to see them like show the locker room after that game or something. So that's my one complaint.
Another person not in the documentary, Jason Tatum. The last thing I'll say on this is I do have one bone to pick with your piece, Patrick, which is your reading of the Obama Anthony Edwards interaction was that the NBA players were nervous to be around Obama. My interpretation was that Obama was nervous to be around the NBA players. He was doing fake no ball talk. Like he was not ready to talk like 2 dribble pull-ups. How do you like get them to release them off the hip, snatch back? What do we do? Like he doesn't know ball like that, and he was nervous.
He said Nas Reed. What else do you want from the guy?
No, exactly.
Yeah, come on.
It's like he doesn't know what's going on in fucking any of the countries, dude. He doesn't know.
I do think you're sort of right in the sense that like something we've seen from his like post-presidency turn is that he has this like, I think mostly like kind of annoying sort of sympathetic desire to be liked and respected by celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
The annoying part is that is like so core to a lot of his persona, and so I think he's clearly like nervous that he wants like LeBron and KD know him and respect him, and like they've sort of not really have a cohort, but like they were famous at the same time. I think he wants Ant, like the younger generation, to like also think of him as cool, whereas Ant is just like, hey Tyrese, they got Shirley Temples back there.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, yeah, exactly. Like Ant's like, that meme from Conan O'Brien. He's like, Barack Obama, the podcaster.
Yeah, and Obama's just like, listen, man, don't you know about when I like did practice with the UNC team?
Yeah,
they won the championship, and Ant's like, no, I was 7.
I was 7, exactly. I was getting in my bag. Sorry.
We're approaching that JPEG of Drake and Kentucky Gear sitting next to Trey Lyles.
Yeah,
who thinks he's on the team.
Well, speaking of Drake, the God, I'm kind of hitting these recently. The millennial patron saint, Drew, you came to us with a kind of holistic basketball generational take that you want to unload for the Nothing But Respect audience. So what set this up for us. I know it has to do with millennials and team building, but and Jimmy Butler a little bit, but let me hear it.
Okay, so I would actually say that one thing about Court of Gold that we have not talked about is that it represents the high watermark of the millennial generation's hegemony over basketball. Or maybe like sort of the petulant dying gasp, like, the Roman emperor in the 400s, like making a fucking push to get back England or whatever. And I think that you have seen sort of systematically throughout this season that any team that is throwing its lot in with these like, millennial stars is just getting fucked, dude. Like, obviously the Sixers are like the biggest example where like, both Embiid and Paul George still, got some phone numbers memorized. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And they are it's just a
They're
disaster.
cooked, yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing with Brain Genius Mavericks with Anthony Davis and Kyrie.
The unction.
The unction, yes. And, really the only, and like, the last chance for like guaranteed millennial supremacy was the Warriors trying to put KD, LeBron, and Steph all together for half a season of, charging up the fucking hill. But then that doesn't work. And so they get Jimmy Butler. And actually the last Sixers game that we went to was against the Warriors, and Jimmy Butler was not playing, but he was wearing tight black jeans, which is very significant.
I was going to say Jimmy Butler is a very helpful swing player in all of this because he is specifically chuggy. Like he is the kind of like the bottom of the barrel in terms of a millennial aesthetic. So him being a key player here. I mean, like he literally started a third wave coffee company. Like it's like insane.
With attendant NFTs.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, there's a Web3 component. It's the only threes Jimmy takes.
That was good. It's this sort of, I think this theory is totally true. I buy it, and like a lot of my friends who are older than me find this like repulsion towards Shai Gilgeous-Alexander specifically. And I think like the Thunder are like this exemplar of sort of like Zoomer basketball excellence. Like people find Shai's game, his outfits, his like Instagram rap captions, and like the group interviews. They see that and they're like totally repelled by it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wrongly. Like, no, I think I think you're totally right that there's this, the emerging, and even like the kind of like wrongly hand-wringing about the foul baiting that Shai doesn't do is totally like an example of like, no, he's just like an extremely effective player who imposes his will on the game like Dwayne Wade, but does it differently. Does it a kind of Zoomer style way.
And I also think...
No, you go.
I also think that a lot of these Zoomer players are being inadvertently stifled from this sort of like millennial talent accumulating at the top. A good friend of mine is an academic named Kevin Munger, who wrote this book called Generation Gap, which is, I helped him edit it, and it is about this phenomenon he calls boomer ballast, which is just like boomers aging and staying healthier for longer, and therefore maintaining capture over like politics, the economy, real estate, which is part of the economy, and even culture,
sports media,
and becoming increasingly out of touch with, the millennial generation as the millennial generation gets poorer and more fucked, because there is not the traditional transfer of wealth between the parents and the children, because the parents they're still alive. And you're seeing this play out, but between the millennials and the Zoomers in the NBA, where, you have all of these great players who just, they get buried in the rotation because they're 23 and, Reggie Jackson's made some big shots, so we got to give him some run first. And only when Kyle Lowry's hip comes out of its socket can Jared McCain get a chance to, run the show.
Right.
Yeah.
This is also a take very informed by me watching the Sixers. But I think you see that like throughout the league. And even like, I don't know, the Grizzlies last year, I guess they didn't have a ton of millennials, but everybody was hurt. And only when everyone was hurt was like Gigi Jackson, and Scottie Pippen Jr. allowed to like do their thing.
I really buy this theory, and I think what makes it interesting is that like the competitive context of the NBA, where it's like the boomer ballast can hold because that's like, it's just sort of generational and class warfare. But in the NBA, It's like you have to win. And so if you just hold on to this like old kind of heliocentric, conservative, trust the vets, don't take that many threes, like you will get passed by. And so it's interesting to see like the teams that made the wrong bets, like these, like the Sixers, like the Suns, like they basically they thought the old order would hold, basically. Like they are the ones caught holding the bag at the end, you know. But the thing that makes this season so interesting is that basically the millennial teams are the ones who like have this theory that basketball changes in the playoffs, that like things become stupider, more heliocentric, and like I think this is the year when we really get the clash of generations. And I think the Cavs are the ultimate synthesis where they're playing Zoomer ball with millennials.
Yes. And PJ Tucker's gone, you know?
Thank God.
Yes. 16-game player, baby. But also, like, the issue is, like, you know, the vets are better than they have ever been. Like, Kyrie Irving is like the best player on the court a lot of the time when he's playing. And like, you know, advances in sports medicine have allowed these players to stay like to be faster and stronger, you know, more than they have been at that age historically. But their knees are still made of glass.
Right.
And so you like trick yourself into believing that like the glass knee won't get hit by the body of like a 250-pound person at a high speed, which is just delusional.
Yeah.
And like, this is also fucking LeBron's fault. Because he is the exception that, you know, defines the rule. That's not the expression at all, but whatever. Because, you know, people are like, oh, LeBron's 40 and he's still great. And so why can't Brook Lopez be as effective as he has been historically or whatever?
And I think in addition to being LeBron's fault, I think Chris Paul bears a pretty significant amount of blame here because he negotiated the CBA, the previous CBA that really put a lot more money in the pockets of the best players, which sort of like made team building, you know, it was all about getting one or two big ass stars. Whereas now, like, things are changing a little bit. And, like, I think also the professionalization of, like, the younger level means that, like, players coming in have a higher chance. Like, you can get Quentin Post in the second round and, like, that guy can play. Whereas 10 years ago, second round picks were just, like, pure bullshit.
I thought you were going, when you said Chris Paul, because here's another thing Chris Paul did, in part with Richard Jefferson, is, like, popularized this sort of, like, third act aging gracefulness you can do if you just do a bunch of like dumb millennial bullshit like yoga. It's like the Chris Paul sort of like avocado toastified his third act of his career and sort of sold this idea that you can like continue providing shareholder value so long as you like eat enough fast casual slop bowls.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the same thing with Phil Mickelson winning a major at 52.
Yeah.
Is he was like, no, you guys don't get it. I have a trainer who helps me work on my calves and I chew CBD gum while I play.
He's saying this while like sweating scotch and like actively doing a parlay on his phone in the other hand.
Yes.
I do want to transition into golf here because Drew, you wrote a book about golf, and I would like you. I have watched a little bit of golf in like 2020, 2021. I got into Colin Morikawa because he also went to Cal. So I would like you to sell me on golf, and by any angle that you find interesting.
Okay. Well, first off, I have to say that my book is called How Golf Can Save Your Life. It is out in hardcover now and is coming out in paperback in, I think, April. I keep forgetting it's coming out. I don't know why they gave me a paper. Well, I know why, which is because if you're a fucking 35-year-old creative director who got into golf during the pandemic, you buy my book when you see the cover, which is very millennial aesthetic in a cool way coded.
It's a good cover.
It's a good cover. Shouts out to the
and you're a good writer, and I think people know you from working for the most famous millennial coded website for a long time too.
Yes.
No, I didn't work at BuzzFeed.
No, he's talking about the Washington or fuck. The Huffington
He
Post.
worked for Upworthy. You were the cats and dogs editor at Upworthy for 6 years. Sorry.
You won the internet multiple days in a row.
Yes, there was so much win under my regime. Anyways, okay, so here is my pitch for golf. You guys like nature, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I just showed you my mushroom knife.
Yeah. Do you hate the government?
Yes.
A
little.
Okay, if you are our sponsors, what the following statement is parody? Yes.
Okay, so you guys are anarchists.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Golf is the most anarchist sport. It was a folk sport invented because Scottish peasants had access to public lands, and they created their own equipment and would go out onto these lands called the links, which were this like unfarmable land that linked the seaside and the farmable land.
Oh, that's sick.
And they would just go out there and create golf courses based on the spots of the links that different animals grazed. And so where the rabbits grazed, that was the green. Where the horses grazed, that was the fairway. Or no, the goats were the fairway. And where the horses grazed ended up being the rough. And the reason golf courses have bunkers or sand traps is because those are naturally occurring phenomena on the links. And then when the Industrial Revolution happened, then golf became took on all these class associations. Because in Scotland, there was this thing where you couldn't buy your way into the nobility if you were like a wealthy peasant. And so they would form country clubs where they did golf on now privately owned land and use their membership in those clubs as a way to sort of broadcast their nouveau riche status. Also, the book on golf course design was written by a dude named Robert Hunter, who grew up down the street from Eugene Debs and was a prominent member of the U.S. Socialist Party and also one of the best amateur golfers in the country. He was very cool. He may or may not have thrown a bomb during a speech in New York City advocating for like the rights of children to not have to be compelled to do forced labor or some shit like that.
That's so sick. I'm so sold.
I'm sure you could talk more about why golf is cool, but now I have a almost more pressing question, which is why is this not even remotely part of the mainstream sort of way that golf markets itself? Like I totally associate it almost obviously with like posh sort of like, you know, rich people behavior.
Because people are fucking haters and losers, dude. And like, I mean, you know, obviously like golf kind of has like the F1 thing where it, on the professional level, it's associated with this like massive wealth. And also, you know, golf does not have the best, most recent history. Like the proliferation of like local public courses in the 50s is associated with like white flight from the cities. A lot of like country clubs or semi-private courses came up in the 90s as sort of this alternate housing boom where people wanted to live next to guaranteed green space and planned communities, and living on a golf course was a great way to do that. And also Tiger Woods was quite popular. And also golf does not have the best environmental track record, but like, you know, fucking whatever, dude. Like everybody, you're using electricity, you're on the internet, you're contributing to the server farms overheating the earth. Just like play some fucking golf, dude.
Yeah. You're trading coffee NFTs.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I feel like you could also make the case too that like understanding golf and like understanding its modern sort of place in the American society and also its history will like necessarily make you think more critically about public land, about, like all like the sort of suburbanization of America. And like, it can put you in touch with like a lot of interesting social currents, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually the reason that Robert Hunter wrote his book on how to design a golf course was he kind of had this like Keynesian belief, although I think he preceded Keynes, that like, technological advancement would lead to an abundance of free time. And he was like, well, I'm a rich socialist and I fucking love playing golf. So everyone is going to want to play golf when they have more free time. And so he like wrote this book for like urban planners, like the lesser Olmsteads of the world, to when it came time for them to like turn a section of the local park into a golf course, have a manual on how to do it.
That's great. Like, this sort of reminds me, are you familiar with the Club Leftist Tennis account or sort of general phenomenon?
Yeah. One of them read from their Club Leftist Tennis manifesto at my book launch party.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, I was going to ask sort of then, like, is there a analogous movement within golf or any sort of like interesting like currents that are happening right now where like it's sort of in touch with the golf discourse in the way that like the club leftist people are with like pickleball and like the way tennis is thought about in the US, because I'm sort of a recent tennis convert. So I would like to know if there are some on-ramps to golf in this same way. I guess the book that you wrote is like the answer here.
I mean, I think that there is sort of this nascent rising quote unquote dirtbag golf movement. Because what?
I'm listening.
Because like, I don't know. Do you guys both live in New York?
I live in Oakland.
Okay,
and there's a great driving range here where you can hit down into a canyon and get buckets of PBR for like $5. And it's like kind of a great grungy like place to spend a couple hours.
Yes, this is the thing, is that like every city at this point has at least one of those things. And because our cities don't care about like keeping up like public goods, you have like a lot of local public golf shit that has fallen into semi disrepair, but is like limping along. And you can actually go enjoy the things that your local government has provided for you.
Yeah, there's one in Bushwick, right? Or somewhere in New York that there's like a golf club people like to hang out. That's fun.
Yeah, the Pitch and Putt in Forest Hills, I think. Like the big park in Queens.
Has a golf course.
It has a pitch and putt course, which is like only like wedge and putter.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
that's fun.
And yeah, it's like the most fun place to go. And for a while, it was one of the few places where you could like drink beer in public in New York.
Always a plus.
Yeah, big plus.
Yeah.
What did you make of the because now I'm thinking about the other way that golf has been sort of privatized and sequestered as entertainment is like Top Golf and that phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
Which is this funny, my quick read on it is I've been a few times on like diabolically bad corporate outings, and it's a fun concept, but just sort of the aesthetic is just over the top insane. Like is what was going on there, or does the book touch on Top Golf, or what's
I mean, I've never actually been to Top Golf, but I sort of do like the idea of making golf bowling. That's like fun to me. And I sort of counterintuitively think that Top Golf is cool. Which again might just be because I've never been.
No, it kind of is. Like
it's fun. Yeah.
It's really fun. It's just you are getting like sort of like Austin simulacrum like imposed on you. But the actual experience is very fun.
Yeah, fuck it. I don't know, man.
Fair enough.
It's like the Mario Kart version of golf. I think another thing that golf and tennis have in common is that they're very, very hard. But there's no more satisfying feeling than like hitting, just like feeling that feeling of like a perfect sweet spot swing. Do you vibe with that?
Yes, but I would add that it feels even better when you're wearing a really cool golf or tennis costume.
Ooh, yeah.
Because like that's the other thing is like golf is dress up and so is tennis, and that is part of the fun.
And its pageantry is not like seen as sort of incidental to it. It's like that is like a core part of it, which I like.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't go on a course wearing jeans, which is also a bad idea, but you can't do it. Not allowed.
It could be a good way to you get some 14-ounce Japanese denim. You want to get some intriguing stretch marks on it. Go do 18 holes. Maybe soaking wet. Go in a bath. Do 18 holes of golf.
I have to ask, what is your favorite golf club?
I keep mine. John Dummy made the beat. I keep mine. Love. Hey, talking about pistols. I keep.
We had one more brief technical difficulty. Drew was laughing too much at my nuanced Japanese denim joke, and he unplugged his mic. What you did have one question, Patrick, that I'm trying to remember what you were saying.
Well, actually, I thought of a better question because I asked our mutual friend Jeremy Gordon what I should ask you. And he said to ask you if you still think Migos are better than the Beatles.
I like that take.
Yeah, but like, I just think a lot of bands are better than the Beatles.
Migos does have a lot of bangers, I do have to say.
Migos, Rich Gang,
Rich Homie Quan and Young Thug individually.
Rich Homie Quan individually, their individual tracks. Various Young Money, CMB posse cuts. Oh, we were talking about. So I actually do have a way to get us over to talk about music, which is
Okay.
though Patrick nailed it. So maybe either this is
Thank you, Jeremy.
overkill. You are the only person I've ever heard of to like golf and rap music.
I don't think that's not.
Do you know other people who are music? I guess I don't know any music writers or golf writers. So like you exist in this interesting thing. But do you see any overlaps of like between them? Not in terms of like culturally or whatever, but like is in covering them. Do you see like? Are you drawn to them because of any through line, or they're just two things you like?
I mean, there's just two things I like, but I will say that there are a lot of rappers who golf, both like publicly and not publicly. Like golfing is like one of the things that helped Schoolboy Q get sober.
Wow.
And
That's really interesting.
Scarface is a huge golfer. He's like really fucking good.
Wow.
Macklemore likes golf so much that he has his own bad golf streetwear line called Bogey Boys.
That's beautiful.
And like there's also just like a lot of golf streetwear going on. Also like Malbon is like the big one, and they've kind of hit the big time in that they are, they sponsor a tour player at this point. I believe Jason Day. But then you also have like Metalwood Studio, which like, they do shit in like Paris for Fashion Week, and they're like sold on Essence and stuff like that. And I guess Essence is like bad for fashion, but whatever. And I actually last year played in a Malbon X 300 entertainment golf tournament.
Whoa.
Oh,
and
shit.
was on the winning team with it was me, a guy who was really nice, not going to say where he works, because it was the NSA actually. No, he worked for a brand. And then the rapper OMB Peasy, who is a Bay Area rapper, but he's from Alabama. So his whole thing was he had like a super thick Southern accent, but then he would rap over like classic Bay shit.
Dude.
And then a fourth guy who had made a bet with someone that his team would win, but he didn't know how to play golf. So he found a professional golfer on the Canadian tour who is from Atlanta and flew him and his caddy up to be our team's ringer. And like, I just like got invited to play in it because I wrote the book, and I had like a mutual friend with like the agency working on it or whatever. And so we show up, I'm like talking, and I like get put in the golf cart with Peasy. And he's just like, yeah, man, I love golf. I'm so bad at it. And I was like, all right, well, this will be fun. And then I'm talking to the other guy. He's like, yeah, I play a good bit, but whatever. And then I'm like, what do you do to the other guy? And he's like, oh, I play on the Canadian tour. And this dude, his caddy was just there to roll him blunts. And
As they should.
yes. And he was like the highest I've seen a person.
Wait, the professional golfer's caddy was just rolling blunts?
Yeah. And this guy still managed to hit a 3-wood blind like 320 yards over a hill to like 2 feet on the green on a par 5. And
Talent is talent.
yeah, and we ended up winning by we were like 19 under or 18 under at the end of the day, our team was. And the guy did win the bet, and we beat a team that had Ja Rule on it. And also
That's incredible.
and Ty Dolla $ign was also there, but I don't know if he was on that team too. But yeah,
Okay, so there's plenty of rap and golf overlap. I egg on my face.
Yeah, when you asked that question, I did not expect to get such a perfect answer. That is incredible. Also, I looked it up. OMBPZ is based in Sacramento.
there we go. Yes.
Oh yeah. Shout out.
Yeah, he has like this one song called Murder on My Mind, and he's not rapping over Selsky, but he's rapping over a Selsky level rapper's old song.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, also, this is not going to translate to audio, but I'll show you guys the trophy that I got, which is right here.
Oh, that's great. We can describe it.
Yeah.
Drew is moving a CIA Asset of the Year award.
Yeah.
This is so
Wow.
sick. It's a white bucket hat with a 300 logo in red. This is very sick.
Dude, that to me is like a kind of like a piece of modern art. Like the
Yeah.
notion that a bucket hat would be encased in
Yeah,
in
it's so beautiful.
in a thing to keep it safe is really funny.
Yeah, when I brought it home to show Emily, she was like, this looks like an old McConan album cover, except terrifying. Please do not put it in a room where I go.
Fair enough. You throw it in the pod room.
Not everyone respects art. That's
All right. Okay. Well, as we wrap up, I want to talk because we're pitching forward, we're pitching backwards. You got a new pod, or revamping an old pod? Because I know you got something coming.
I have a new pod that is not yet released, but it's called Macho Pod.
Macho Pod.
It's a good name.
And it's about like just macho shit, but like the two people who are my co-hosts are like incredibly gentle men. One of my co-hosts is Yannick Lejac, the former Kotaku journalist who is now a therapist. And the other co-host / producer is the platinum selling producer, Yuri Beats, who is a good friend of mine and Emily's, and is a platinum selling producer because he produced a Lil Dicky song. And he is an incredibly also warm and gentle and sweet man. And so each episode we're like talking about some like Superboy shit. Like our first episode is going to be on Theo Vaughn. The second one is going to be on the Den of Thieves films.
Dude, you're talking my language.
This is good shit.
Third one is going to be on crypto, and the fourth one is going to be on Gamergate.
Wow. This sounds great. I mean, having Yannick for that last one is like perfect.
Yeah, Yannick opened the Gamergate.
Yeah. And all of culture walked through.
Yes.
That sounds so great. And this is coming very soon.
It's coming very soon. Yeah, we've got 3 episodes in the can, and we're going to try to drop once we have 3 or 4 fully ready to go. You'll be able to find it at machopod.show or other like podcast things on the internet. But don't go right now because the site is like public, but we're like still building it and I don't think it fully works. But for a while, at least, you're going to have to pay $1 to listen to the episodes.
That's a fair trade.
I like yes. Oh god.
Just type that URL into a bar, but don't press enter for like 3. Set an alarm on your phone in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Then you go try it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Just keep the tab open. Don't restart. Don't update. And whatever you do, don't impulsively tab purge.
I'm trying to think. The only thing I want, the only like burning, noisy / Vice days question that I had, because we were talking about the Vice offices off mic, and I'm a little bit younger than you guys, such that Vice kind of like echoed in sort of rumor and just sort of. I didn't know anybody who worked at Vice. I didn't know anybody who knew anybody who worked at Vice. I was living in San Francisco being like, one day I'm going to move to Williamsburg, and
that's how they fucking get you, dude.
I know. Yeah. And, but I remember having a friend who PA'd at Vice when I had just moved to, God, I might have still been in college, and he was like, dude, it's true. They have IPAs on draft. Like the office has an IPA on draft. You can just drink it whenever you want. And I was like, this is the craziest. And it's funny now because it's like now you can like go to the Facebook offices and they'll like shoot you with Zyklon B and like you'll be awake for like 79 hours straight, like in complete orgasmic euphoria and not remember any of it. And that just like comes with it. But the idea of IPAs there were extremely important. That's just an anecdote, nothing to respond there. The other thing I wanted to say is that, unless you have something, were there IPAs? Drew, can you confirm?
So I believe this person must have been referencing their like second office where they did sort of like Williamsburg corporate raider on some DIY spaces. And it's actually very weird. Like Emily is from like the Brooklyn DIY scene, and she lived in 285 Kent and then was the editor-in-chief of their underground electronic music site Thump. And her desk was in the same area of the building where she used to live.
It's like the Severance, like she's Severance. It's like cutting out between like kombucha on tap and like leaky water.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. The creak of like poorly made like lofts of when someone's rolling over, and then like unlimited hummus. But
rich imagery.
To my recollection, I don't remember if they had IPA on top, because I would only go when Emily and I lived in different places for a while, and I would like come up to visit her, and then I would just work out of the office because I still had a bunch of friends there. And I do remember that Vice had its own beer called Old Blue Last, which was meant to be a PBR competitor.
Dude.
But it tasted horrible. My friend Trey had 2 very wise things to say about Old Blue Last. One was it's the only beer that's supposed to taste good cold that actually tastes better warm. And 2, it's the only beer that tastes different every time you have it.
And it has such a sentence fragment ass name. That's amazing. I would love to get my hands on some. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So actually, I think that there's only a few cans left in the world, and I know that one of them is at the Bushwick Country Club in Williamsburg, which is where my book party was. And at the end of the night, the proprietor comes out and he was like, "Oh, it seems like you used to work at Vice, given that everyone at this thing used to work at Vice. Do you want to see something?" And he pulls out
That's so sick.
a double skunked can of Old Blue Last.
That's incredible. Wow.
That's
I mean,
so good.
I think that's as good a place to end it.
Yeah.
I was going to talk a little bit about the noisy Atlanta documentary series that changed my life, but we could probably do an episode. I mean, we could do an entire episode on those.
Dude, there was like a 10-minute or now like a 3-day interlude when I was going to host that, actually.
Wow. Sliding doors moment.
Yeah, like one of the producers came up to me and was like, "The usual guy can't do the noisy Atlanta. You have to host it." And I was like, "What? Okay, when do I leave?" And he's like, "We're leaving in 3 days." And then I guess like 2 days later, he comes up and he's like, he doesn't even say anything. And I'm like, "Hey, am I still going to Atlanta tomorrow?" And he's like, "Oh no, the regular guy can do it again. You're off the hook."
Wow, that's a real sliding doors moment. I wonder if Harry would have remembered it more or less. I think it would have been better if you did it, but it's probably for the best that you didn't.
Yes. I mean, I did consult on it, and I kept being like, "Hey, why don't you not show the incriminating stuff that will get one of the Migos sent to jail? That seems like a really irresponsible thing to do." And they were like, no, it's provocative. Anyways, that guy was eventually let go due to Me Too style reasons.
Shit. The producer or the host?
The producer,
Oh, got it. Well,
who shall remain unnamed.
yes. Well, listen, it did change my life. So there's something there. And that's all I'll say about that. Drew, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's always been my dream to get to go on a hipster lefty NBA podcast.
It's and you know what? It's always been my dream to host one with with Patrick Redford as of course. Please, actually, that's it. I'm gonna record a thing at the top about subscribing because I keep forgetting to do that. So we'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.